Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this conference on delivering economic growth here in our region. I just want to say a few words of thank yous. I'd like to set out what I would like us all to get from today's event, talk about a little bit about the Adonis review itself, then the progress I think we've made, and also look into the future, the work that we need to be doing over the next few weeks and months, where we critically need to engage with your support. And it is great to see so many people here today. My experience so far working with the LEP is that where we've been successful, you can see where we've been really working in partnership. And this is part of the purpose of today. So first of all, some thank yous. I'd like to thank you all for coming today. As the event in February, we're actually oversubscribed, so it's great to see so many of you here, and I do hope you feel as though through today, and particularly the panel sessions this afternoon, you have an opportunity to engage and contribute to economic growth. I'd like to say thank you to everybody who's organised today's event. A special thank you to the panellists who are speaking today. I want to especially say thank you to Lord Haskins, who's my equivalent in Humberside, and now I would now regard as a good friend of the North East LEP, so it's great to have Lord Haskins here this morning. I especially like to thank our sponsors. Our main sponsors are UKTI and the University of Sunderland. We've had a host of other sponsors which are listed in your pack, and they've helped us to be able to hold today, but also to produce the Business Insight supplement that you've all got that was produced in the Times yesterday. My final thank you is to the review team, who have been outstanding in producing the report, but continue to come to the region and support the delivery of the plan. So thank you to the review team in particular. What would I like out of today? I hope we can take away from today. I hope, first of all, that we'll be able to see that we are making quite significant progress, actually, and I'll run through just a selection of the things we've been doing a little bit before the report was published, but since the report was published as well. And then I'd like to just talk about the future, some of the things that we'll be doing and how we engage your support. And then I'll hand over to Mick, who will be talking about the Combined Authority. So in terms of what I'd like to get out is, for me, you get the progress, you know what's happening, but more importantly for me, that we establish the Adonis report and the economic planning that comes from it to be our foundation as a region going forward in the long term, the medium and long term, as a reference point that we can all sign up to. The importance of having a long-term plan is really critical. When we looked at successful regions around Europe and the world, this was a key feature. And I hope that the Adonis report, and when it becomes our strategic economic plan, we'll be able to stick with that for years to 2030 and beyond. And people will adopt it as their economic plan going forward. So just want to say a bit about the review itself. It has had a lot of interest, and I'm going to have to tweak a little bit what I was going to say and to recognise that even though we planned this event way ahead, we had no idea there was going to be debate on the floor of the House of Commons on the eve of this conference. So I'm going to just change a little bit what I was going to say, not too much. We have had a lot of interest, and I think that in terms of the support we've had from local MPs, my personal view is it's essential that the MPs hold organisations like the LEP to account. It's really critical, and I welcome that. And I also believe that if I and the LEP ever wanted their support, either individually or collectively, we'd definitely get it. The one thing I would like to sort of take up is some of the comments, weren't made by all the MPs, about the report itself. Because I actually believe the report's outstanding. I have never, ever heard anything other than people saying it's a great piece of work. And I really subscribe to that. And the reason I think it's a great piece of work is that there's a few reasons, but first of all, it's the review team itself. We had some outstanding people contributing their time and talent to pull together this report. And I think the team captured the essence of the region. Its strengths, definitely, but also recognised that there were certain things that we did need to address. Things like youth unemployment. So it would be wrong to say that we didn't have due regard to some of the challenges that the region faces. It was also evidence-based, and that was really important from some really eminent academics, but also in taking on board the views of the region. It was focused and it was ambitious. And I think it's a great report, and I really hope it becomes the foundation of our economic planning going forward. So that's the review itself. Progress. I could go through a lot, actually. I'm just going to reel through a list, and I'll try and relate it to what some of the things that were in the Adonis report. The first thing was the combined authority, and Mick's going to be talking about that. That was something that everybody wanted, and I really want to congratulate the leaders and the elected mayor for coming forward with a combined authority. It's early days, but we'll hear a bit more from Mick. We talked about North East innovation. Roy Sandbach is here. He was on one of the panels. We're now putting together some really exciting plans that would see this region recognised globally as a place to come with ideas and turn those ideas into action and products and jobs. We talked about North Sea First, and that's to promote the low-carbon economy, particularly around offshore wind. And it was really significant in June that the government announced the strike price for offshore wind. That's really going to help us get those jobs that we need around the low-carbon economy. Around skills, a lot of activity around skills, but in particular, we've been asked to be a pilot alongside 2 other LEPs to look at how you bridge this gap between supply and demand. Skills probably is still the biggest challenge that we face in the region, particularly when we talk to businesses. In terms of access to finance, we secured funding to enable us to extend the Jeremy Fund here in the North East. We're working with Northern Rock Foundation to look to see if we can get money from big society capital to help fund social enterprises so that they can be sustainable and they can create more jobs and better jobs for the region. In transport, we're working very hard to secure the transatlantic flight. We're looking to see if we can reopen the Leamside lane, which would free up freight and enable quicker routes from Newcastle and Durham down to London. And we received funding for the Western Bypass. On the Rural Growth Network, we should recognise that the region covers 3 quite large rural areas, and we've created some enterprise hubs in the region, and I find them really exciting. Just up at Wooler, we've recognised that we need to help businesses start up, and there's some enterprise hubs in Wooler. And finally, on our bigger enterprise zones, we've already created 430 jobs, and we predict by 2015 we'll have 2,000 jobs in those enterprise zones. So a lot, that's just to counter through. I could go on in longer, but I do think we're making a lot of progress. Some of that had started before the review, but the review has given it some impetus. Now, if we look forward, I just want to talk about 3 things which we're going to be looking at over the next few weeks and months, and where we will be consulting and do need to have an engagement with an audience like this. The 3 things are our strategic economic plan, our European strategy, and the city deal that's being led by Sunderland and supported by South Tyneside. All of these, you can see, are leading and connected to the key themes of the Adonis review. So the Sunderland city deal, supported by South Tyneside, is a really ambitious plan around the automotive industry and the supply chain to advance manufacturing. It would be globally significant. And it hits all the key criteria set out in the Adonis report and is very ambitious. Our strategic economic plan, which we have to produce just after the end of the year, and which we will use to submit for funding through the Single Growth Fund, will be based, I think, largely on the Adonis report. We'll tweak it a bit, but we will be in a lot of consultation to get that. But that plan will form the basis going forward for a lot of funding coming into the region. And perhaps the most significant work we'll be doing is around our European strategy. We've been allocated over £500 million. It's one of the largest allocations in England, so we've done well to get that money. We now need to set up some programmes, some overarching programmes, which will guide us how we can use that. We also need to be able to match it. If we match it, we'll have £1 billion to be able to do something really transformational. And I think the European strategy will be entirely consistent with the key findings of the Adonis report. So I think when I said one of my big hopes, actually, for today was that the review and the report will produce and be the foundation of our economic planning going forward. And I hope that we'll be able to do that. And in years to come, we can look back and really see the importance of the work that was done by Andrew and his colleagues. But I did say one of the first things that we have been able to achieve is the creation of the Combined Authority. And I'll now pass over to Mick, who will tell you a little bit more about that. Thank you.